It's the Jack Tomczak Show.
Welcome back to the Jack Tomczak Show. This is Dr. Kent Kaiser substituting for Jack, who is out for the day. And along with me today is Jill Voyevich-Lobbs from the Minnesota Republican Party. And we're talking about issues that are important to Minnesotans, I hope. And one of the ones that got me very concerned lately, well, for the last couple of years actually, is the potential for a liquid fuel ban in the state. And there's been, for the last couple of years, and it continues, this push at the state legislature and within the Walz administration to ban liquid fuels in the state. And I know that it sounds completely absurd, and it sounds like whenever I bring it up with people, they're like, no, that can't be. But yes, there are people who actually want to ban liquid fuels, so gasoline, biofuels, diesel, everything from the state, and really force people into electric vehicles. That's really what they're after, is to force people into electric vehicles. And what they couch it in really nice terms, because they call it a clean transportation standard that they're pushing for. And who doesn't like something clean? We like clean water. We like clean air, especially right now.
Oh, my gosh. Will we ever have clean air again? I feel like we're living in Shanghai. Right? It's just awful.
But the clean transportation standard is, in fact, heavy-handed government way of getting us into electric cars, whether we want it or not. And unfortunately, it's had some legs at the state legislature, and we fear that it will again here in the future. And so far, we've been able to keep it from becoming a law, but there's been a working group. And once you get these things into the administration and into the agencies, unfortunately, they kind of take on a life of their own. And all of a sudden, things will happen, and there will be rules passed that have the force of law without our being able to repeal them and so on. And so we're very much concerned about it. And right now, the Clean Transportation Standard Working Group, it's called, has been aiming for a ban of all liquid fuels by the year 2050, which really isn't all that far away when you think of the grander scheme of things. And, of course, there are all kinds of implications for this. I mean, one, of course, is the cost of liquid fuels as we know them. We estimate that by 2040 there would be a $4 increase in the price of a gallon of gas. Now that's the increase. That's not the total cost of the gallon of gas. That is the increase. So imagine going to the pump today. What do you pay, like $3 a gallon? Imagine going to the pump and you're paying $7 a gallon. That's what we kind of estimate will happen by 2040, when there is still gas available, but they will be pushing people toward electric cars in a way that by 2050 there would be no liquid fuels available, which, again, sounds totally absurd, but that is what the goal is. And it's really an idea that was hatched in California, of course. And interestingly, it's been taking hold in some other western states, and has not taken hold in the eastern states, which, you know, there are crazy states out there too, but for some reason it's been one of these western things. And of course, Minnesota and the Democrats here have jumped on board with the idea of a liquid fuel ban. And personally, I'm going out to Farm Fest this week, as I have for the past few years, and I'm going to be talking to people, policymakers and others, about the perils of a liquid fuel ban. Of course, it really resonates in rural Minnesota, where people have to drive long distances to get to the grocery store, or to get to work, or to get the kids to school or whatever. And of course, it hits rural Minnesota from the other side, which is from the side of ethanol and biofuels, because, of course, in our state, we've poured billions of dollars of both private and public tax dollars into the research and development of ethanol and biofuels, and all of that would be just flushed down the drain if we were to have this clean transportation standard, a.k.a. a liquid fuel ban, put in place by 2050. And when people hear that in rural Minnesota, they get it, because it would be hitting them from, like I say, the two sides. On the one hand, from the personal side of being able to get from place to place and be able to do your work, and from the more social side, or the sociological side of hitting the economy real hard in all those rural communities that rely on the research and development of biofuels and ethanol and so on. And so much of our agriculture economy has sort of been aligned with ethanol because we were told that's the way we were going to go. And to have this clean transportation standard, also known as liquid fuel ban, come our way means that all of that would be just flushed down the drain. And of course, the proponents of a liquid fuel ban will say, oh, those people get jobs in some other place. Well, where? The people in rural Minnesota understand. You don't just go out and get another job. You don't just turn to the next business down the street or something to get a job. It's not like when you live in an urban area, maybe. But even people in the suburbs get it. Just think about the cost of taking the kids to a hockey practice or going to church or going to go to the groceries when the price of fuel goes up by $4 or more per gallon. It's just a crazy idea whose time has not come and never will, as far as I'm concerned. And I think if people want to have an electric car, Jill, do you have an electric car?
Negative.
No, me either. But I think if people want to have an electric car, they should be able to. And...
Again, great. Have one if you want one.
Right.
Let me know how it works during a polar vortex.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm just saying, for starters, number one and number two, look, this is just yet another demonstrable example of how Tim Walz and the Democrats are so out of touch with real Minnesota. Real Minnesota. Sure, we like a clean Boundary Waters. We do. Everybody loves the lakes. We're all upset about the smoke. I don't know. In fact, I haven't heard anybody who right now is not irritated about the smoke. Okay? We all get it. We all want to keep.
Well, we can blame the Canadians.
We live in God's country. We all that. Okay, all of it. But he's out of touch with the reality of life here in Minnesota. And I appreciate that there is a group in a population center in the Twin Cities that are the chattering class in his ear and in the legislature's ear. I get that. But real people in this state, this is not an option. It is not. And,
No, you made a couple of really good points there. I mean, I heard of one legislator, and I can't remember who it was, but he had an electric car, and he went set up from the Twin Cities in the winter to go to Duluth, and he made it, of course, but he should have. But he did detect that the number of miles that he could drive was reduced by something like 40%, which is a little disturbing, because if you thought that you were going to go on a longer trip, or if you thought you had X number of miles on your vehicle, even if you were just tooling around the Twin Cities or something, well, all of a sudden you're stranded, and you don't, and the other thing is, like, how do you travel on a long distance trip? I don't really think it's economical or feasible, not only just for somebody who's traveling maybe on vacation, but think of truckers or others who travel long distances for work, and it's part of their work day is to drive. And how long do you have to stand at a charging station as opposed to fueling up with gas? And the other thing is the charging station working? I heard of one person I know who actually has an electric car, good guy, but has an electric car, and he decided he was going to go on a trip out to Montana. Well, he seriously had to map out exactly where he could drive because, well, North Dakota has fewer EVs than any other state in the union.
Right.
So they, of course, have fewer charging stations, and there are very few charging stations. And then the crazy thing was that a couple of the charging stations that he had mapped out didn't work when he got there. Now, he was fortunate enough to be able to get to another one, but when you think about the hassle of that, when you have a job that requires you to drive, whether you're a trucker or something else, it's disturbing the disruption that the whole idea would bring to the economy and to people's just everyday lives. Mm-hmm. And so it's both things. I mean, there's the economy where obviously it's going to be a burden to people if there's a liquid fuel ban, because the other thing is that those electric cars are not cheap. I can remember driving down the road one day and seeing, I think it was a Rivian, which I thought looked like a kind of an interesting vehicle. I would consider it until I went and looked at the price tag, and then I found that it was literally 3 times the cost of the pickup that I currently drive. I drive a cheap pickup, but I don't think that most Americans could afford the electric vehicle in the first place. And people say, oh, well, there's a wash, eventually you pay less for gas, blah, blah, blah. I just don't think that you ever get to that point where a person has that much money to put out in the first place for a vehicle as opposed to a normal gas vehicle. And I don't see those prices coming down.
No. And look, we're dealing with a group of people here who don't want to be told to wear a seatbelt, who don't want to be told to wear a helmet, who don't want to be told where they can smoke, whether it's a cigarette, weed, or a vape. Okay, no, really, they don't want to be restricted there. They don't want to. I mean, literally, look what happened when they tried to restrict fireworks during COVID. I mean, look at the rebellion. It was total rebellion. Yeah. This, and then you're going to do this. You know, I say real women drive diesels anyhow. So that, but
yeah,
I mean,
and that's the thing too. I mean, diesel would be. We wouldn't have diesel available either because it's a liquid fuel. But the other thing, what's baffling to me, like I say, I'm going to go out to Farm Fest this week and talk to people. But what's been baffling to me is that more of the agriculture groups haven't gotten on board with this. Now, a few of them have. A few of them have been up at the legislature, just like I have, talking to legislators and testifying too against a liquid fuel ban. But it is kind of baffling how many of the rural interests and the ag groups have not actually joined us in the call or the fight against a liquid fuel ban, because I think some of them think, it won't affect them as much or something, but I don't know what it is. But I wish that they would jump on board because of the major impact it really would have on all rural communities, all rural Minnesota. So even, I mean, you can understand how the corn growers have testified, and you can understand where some of those that are really closely tied to ethanol have actually jumped on board. But some that are adjacent have not. And that's been baffling to me, and I just really wish those other groups would jump on board and I don't know what it is.
Lack of information, lack of education.
It could be, or are they afraid of ticking off the governor or the administration, or I can't imagine that they care about what urban legislators think.
Look, here's what I'm going to say. If they're going to do this, then they better put up charging stations in the median on 494, on 94 and 394, anywhere right now, because right now in the cities, you can't get anywhere. There is so much construction. Even the side back roads and frontage roads are under construction, and you are sitting sometimes for 70 minutes. And I literally was joking with somebody the other day and said, okay, you better cut back on the oat brand, because if you're stuck in traffic, you're going to be, screwed. So this is just nuts. I don't know what he's thinking. Maybe it's his jazz hands. I don't know.
Well, I hope that people will learn more about it. And there is a website to go to. It's nofuelban.com, nofuelban.com, where people can go and learn more about the issue and see updates and keep in touch with this issue. And we do encourage people, of course, to contact legislators to express their desire to, be able to drive whatever vehicle they want and to not have this liquid fuel ban. But again, I encourage people to go to nofuelban.com, and now we have to go to break.
Makes no